You have the right to remain silent forever, ever, 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 ever. Hello, here's movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by, coming at you on this beautiful spring day to review the movie that came out, it's copyright dated 1987 by the name of Maniac Cop. I won't be reviewing the Blu-ray, I'll just be reviewing the movie because I don't own the Blu-ray. The most recent version of this movie I own is this DVD from Synapse Films, copyrighted 2006. And since this DVD is such, good quality, and I don't watch this movie too very often, I just never bothered, and don't really necessarily plan on upgrading to the Blu-ray of the first film. So I'll just be just reviewing the movie. I'm not going to review the DVD, but it should be said very briefly that that DVD is, was and is very great and still holds up very well and upconverts very well in a HD TV. So Maniac Cop is interesting. Just like with so many movies, I think I first saw this movie when I was 13. I want to say the first glimpses I saw of this movie might have been like spring or something like that of when I was 13. I might have seen the end of the movie where those two guys go in, waiting in front of the elevator, and you see the knife come up and then go in front of them and stab the guys, and then the door open, and that cool angle of Matt Cordell walking in with his really long police knife thing, and like, I think I saw the very first footage or the very first anything of this movie I saw was that on TV, and then I think I was probably I imagine I would have watched the rest of it because that was really cool. And obviously then I sought out, my dad and I probably not long after probably rented the VHS. So I'm pretty sure I saw this for the first time when I was 13 and absolutely loved it. I thought it was an absolutely really cool movie, and it should be said, it opens with this really cool montage of like a policeman in New York, an East Coast policeman putting on his outfit and stuff, and then including the white gloves. I don't know, I want to say, I'm not a police enthusiast by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to say that it might be just like an East Coast or New York thing to have the police wear these like white gloves, which whatever. So this is a movie, of course, that takes place in New York. So the opening credits is this really cool music by Jay Chataway. The music, it should be said, is absolutely phenomenal in this movie, and really is a big part of the atmosphere of this movie and what makes it really kind of cool. So it's a montage of just a mysterious policeman dressing up or whatever. The opening scene, I'm going to try my best not to do it beat by beat, but I just will lay out the grounds and saying that the opening scene is this young chick, walking out of a bar at night. I don't know if 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or whatever, but she's walking out of the bar in New York and walking home or whatever, and gets accosted by these muggers, and she's got some kung fu skills, apparently kung fu slash purse swinging skills, to be able to get away from these guys. And one thing I don't want to forget to mention, having just rewatched this recently, is like, since day one and I saw this, and even just rewatching it recently, I really like the, kind of the way, like action bits of this movie are covered and cut. Like, William Lustig really had in this particular movie really a nice flair for covering like little action set pieces from different interesting angles, and whatever editors he ended up getting to cut these, shots together with. Just the brief little bit that she has, the brief little fight with these, two, muggers, just is kind of covered in a really interesting way and cut in a really cool way. So she escapes and they chase her, and only to go to this one spot where she sees this towering silhouette of a cop, and she runs up to the cop for help, and the cop basically picks her up by her throat and just like chokes the shit out of her and throws the corpse down on the ground. And it's funny how you see the muggers react to her being killed, and they're like all remorseful, like, I don't know, I guess a mugger does, some muggers in New York, have lines that they won't cross. Like, they'll mug people or beat people up for money, but when they see, that their victim dying, they're just like, oh man, the humanity. But that's how this movie opens, just to show, the fact that, oh my gosh, this cop, which is supposed to be there, quote unquote, for, you, or to protect you or help you, whatever, is the one in this whole scenario that killed her, not the muggers. So, oh my gosh. So basically, early on in the movie, we have 3 incidents, the first of which is the one I just said with the girl, and then we'll just like introduce good old Tom Atkins is in this movie. Gray-haired Tom Atkins is like a main player in this movie, some detective or whatever, some guy. in this movie. And then after I think we introduced Tom Atkins, it's just back to another, like a couple in this, you know, hot shit 80s car or whatever, drinking, stopping at a light. And I remember being a kid seeing this scene, and even once again revisiting it recently, and this scene's really cool where, you know, Matt Cordell's just like, you know, because they're drinking, and the cop, you know, appears out of nowhere and they're like, stash the booze, and the one guy the driver gets motioned out to do a sobriety test, and he's got him standing there and doing like touching his nose and stuff like that. And you know, we see through just really cool coverage and shots and stuff that, you know, this Billy Club or whatever they call this thing that police have or whatever, pulls out this huge blade. You know, it's got this huge blade. It's kind of like a, you know, the Billy Club, you know, Matt Cordell's Billy Club or whatever it's called. Is that what it's called? Nightstick maybe is what it's called. Is actually like basically a ninja sword sheath. You know, and that's not like a ninja sword length, but you know, the blade is obviously no longer than the nightstick. But in this scene, we're introduced for the very first time to Matt Cordell's, like, you know, nightstick slash big long blade, and he pulls it out and just like grabs this guy's head and just, you know, goes whoosh across his neck. I think maybe once or twice, and then in a really cool kind of gimmick, probably with some kind of assistance from a wire or something like that, wire stunt, Matt Cordell just like throws this guy's corpse, you know, just recently slashed corpse onto the hot shit car and windshield, and gets blood all over, and the woman, you know, the girlfriend, like speeds away or whatever. And then I don't know, there's probably more character stuff with, you know, whatever, Tom Atkins. And then the third and final of the opening, you know, all three of these things happening relatively early on, these kind of Maniac Cop incidents, if you will. Then some guy will be some musician will just be leaving a bar, and he's going to go get in his car, and he gets handcuffed by Matt Cordell. Matt Cordell's the name of Maniac Cop, of course, as we'll later on come to find out. And this is kind of one of the more weaker of the scenes. It's kind of just a chase scene, and the editor did a really horrible choice in this scene, I might add, where there's this shot that's used where the first time it's used confidently, where it's like the guy running from the back, and these handcuffs are so tight they're making his wrists bleed and stuff, and so it's really cool. I mean, the shot itself is cool of him running with the bleeding wrists and stuff like that, and his hands flopping from these overly tight handcuffs. But later on, it'll be like a medium shot of his back, and it'll cut into with a close-up, you know, and his hands aren't even bloody or anything in there. In the medium shot of the back, it's like his hands are clenched together like his fingers, and then it'll cut into the bloody flopping hands and back out again to the medium shot of the, you know, clenched hands. It's really, really, really sloppy. I don't know what the hell the editor was thinking, but this is just a little cat and mouse scene, and the guy just trips and lands face first in like some fresh concrete, and Maniac Cop grabs the back of his head and mushes his face into the concrete. So it's just like, you know, I don't know, that's that. Oh boy. Then at some point we're introduced to Bruce Campbell's character. Yes, Bruce Campbell's in this movie, and he's just this young cop who's got like a troubled marriage, and this goofy frickin' wife who's probably agoraphobic, doesn't seem like she ever goes anywhere, you know, and this goofy wife who, she's like, basically Bruce Campbell's like, yeah, I'm taking all kinds of extra night shifts, and he goes away off to, you know, he buttons, you know, at this point the movie's kind of making him like maybe, oh, his wife, by the way, is cutting out clippings of this, you know, these Maniac Cop killings and stuff that is, in the meantime, all these reports of Maniac Cop killings is of course making people afraid of police or whatever. And, you know, at one point in the, you know, later on in the movie we see that this one woman who, you know, actually shoots a cop because she's afraid that he's this Maniac Cop. So the wife's, you know, collecting clippings, and, you know, when we're introduced to Bruce Campbell, we have this little bit of a, you know, he's kind of introduced in a way like, gosh, is he the Maniac Cop? And he gets all suited up in his cop uniform and walks out of the, you know, apartment, and wife follows him only to find out that, you know, he just goes into a hotel room, and she's like, what the hell? And in a very fake movie thing, we see the wife go to the freaking, you know, the clerk in the office of the hotel, and then we cut to a shot of her inserting a key into the door. So apparently in the universe of Maniac Cop, or maybe it's a New York thing, if you just want to get into any hotel room, just go ask for the key to any hotel room that, you know, you want to get into, and they'll just give it to you or whatever. So that's kind of scary. I know that's hopefully not true, but in this movie, sometimes movies make up their own rules just to get things done, you know, quickly, and you're not supposed to question it. But as a viewer, it's like, okay, yeah, I want a key for, you've never seen me before or anything, but I want a key for that room, hotel room right there. Okay, here you go, lady. But anyway, it's funny. She goes into the hotel room, and when my dad and I saw this, with like two uniforms, cop uniforms on a chair, like in the hotel room, and my dad's like, "Oh man, don't tell me he's gay." Like, my dad thought Bruce Campbell's character went to a hotel room to meet another male cop to screw this male cop. And it's just like, well, moments later, of course, you find out that, it's funny because you hear like, as she's approaching the bedroom, like, what's so funny about a hotel room isn't the whole room like a bedroom? Like, why, what kind of sleazy hotel or motel or whatever do you walk into and the beds aren't just right there? That's another plot point, actually, just saying it out loud now, that makes no sense. But, she goes into the bedroom and just, on the way there, it's like, and she flips on the switch, and what's funny is it's like Bruce Campbell's not even on top of her. It's like he's face down on his side of the bed or whatever. But anyway, cutting to the chase, there's this confrontation where, of course, Bruce Campbell's like, "I didn't want you to find out this way," and the woman's another cop. It's not a male cop; it's a woman cop, and the wife goes speeding out, running out the hotel, only get pulled in, to a van by, we assume Maniac Cop or whatever, and oh gosh, it's a big drama. Bruce Campbell's wife found out. Oh gosh, OMG whiz, what a way to have the marriage end. So even though I just watched this relatively recently, I for the life of me, I can't really even remember what the hell Tom Atkins really does in this movie, like the first part. I mean, I know that, I guess, in between the Maniac Cop killings towards the beginning of the movie, there's just cuts to him talking with other people, constituents or whatever, about what to do. But it's so funny because, he meets some chick, reporter in the bar, and then later on he's like, open me up a tab, will you, Bill? Or, whoever the bartender is. And it just makes you wonder, like, is Tom Atkins like a lush in every single movie he's in? He's always just down in the booze and just hanging out in bars and opening tabs everywhere he goes. It's just like this, thing that's a constant throughout Tom Atkins' career, at least in the 80s, or at least the movies I've seen him in. It's just like really kind of funny. So towards the beginning of this movie, obviously, when the Maniac Cop killings are happening, I think that's what Tom Atkins is trying to figure out, who the hell's doing it, and obviously it's someone to discredit the police force. Later on, after the thing with Bruce Campbell and the partner being found in the hotel room, later on the next day, I think, the police commissioner or chief or someone comes to Bruce Campbell and says, "Your wife," this guy, by the way, who plays this bald guy, is just like, his voice is just crazy. Since when is my personal life any business of yours? Since we found your wife with her in the hotel room with the throat slit from ear to ear. You've got the right to remain silent. Anything you say. Anyway, my throat's getting painful just talking like that guy. But basically, I don't know, midway through this movie or whatever, Bruce Campbell gets arrested as a suspect. And as the movie wears on, we learn more and more that, gosh, how could the killer or whoever's setting him up know about this stuff? And as the movie wears on, the characters realize, Bruce Campbell and this kind of hot blonde she's really not, I don't know, she's really not necessarily my type, but I mean, technically she's probably hot blonde, who are, and Tom Atkins are trying to come to the bottom of who the hell, inside, there's got to be someone inside the department who's setting him up, and also at the same time trying to discredit the police force. So that's kind of the main thing that goes on for the midway point of this movie. Just, it becomes more of a, whodunit, or trying to figure out what's going on midway through the movie. So through the due diligence of lush Tom Atkins' character and, hot blonde and Bruce Campbell and whatever like that, through all the teamwork of all those three, they come to the conclusion that, all this stuff, or the Maniac Cop, is Matt Cordell, and Matt Cordell's backstory is he was a super cop. I don't know how much further before this movie started he was supposed to exist. It actually occurred to me watching this movie that it'd be actually kind of cool to do a prequel, and I actually came up with a title. It'd be really cool to just do a prequel of Matt Cordell's story. And the title is called, get this, ready? Cordell. And it's basically, that's the title, and you could just have it be a prequel to Maniac Cop. And it wouldn't really be a horror movie, maybe more of an action movie, because it's just would, detail the exploits of Matt Cordell and him being a super cop and him being taken down by the system or whatever. And what's ironic is we'll find out more details about, his basically shaming, or the end of his heroic career in the second movie. But in this movie, we just basically find out that, I don't know, the politics. I mean, I guess we just find out a little more details in the second ones. Again, I'm not really good at exposition, just spoken through dialogue or whatever. But the basic gist of it is, he was the super cop who was, I don't know if he was getting a little too close to the shady dealings of City Hall or whatever. Or maybe in the first movie, the thing was he just used too much excessive force to get bad guys sometimes, and was basically thrown in prison. And then in prison he was, obviously, shared prison with a lot of the criminals and stuff that he put behind bars, so he was gang attacked in the shower. And it's kind of funny, this nude scene and Robert Z'Dar, I didn't even say that name yet, is the guy who plays Matt Cordell / Maniac Cop, and he was in really, relatively great shape when they made the first movie, and throughout the 3 movies you can see him kind of get smaller and smaller. I think that he's probably smaller in the second one, and that, maybe not, I don't know. But I think he's probably in the best shape in this movie, and you can tell, I mean, obviously in the shower scene, that he's in pretty good shape and big hulking guy. And I gotta tell you, this Robert Z'Dar guy, who's been in other movies as well and stuff, you don't really see his face very well in these movies, but holy cow, the guy's got just this jaw that just doesn't quit. Like, his whole face is almost like it's just a jaw. It's really crazy. And he was really great kind of face and whatever to be this character, and it was really well cast. So basically he's just accosted by some of these inmates in the prison shower, and he's attacked and sliced, and he actually kicks their ass, but some guy, stabs him in the back with a knife, and it brings him to his knees, and they're slicing up his face, and they leave him for dead. And basically what the backstory we end up finding out, Bruce Campbell and the blonde end up going to this guy, this coroner guy in the prison or whatever, and talk to him and realize that, because the official story was Matt Cordell was died in prison, and then basically his ex-girlfriend, from what we understand, or his ex-fling, or whatever the hell you want to call it, basically quietly claimed his body, and the official story was he was dead, and an empty casket or weighted casket was buried or whatever. And I'm still confused. I guess he really wasn't. I mean, in the movie, well, I don't know. He as throughout the course of the 3 movies, he becomes more like an undead Jason. It's not clear to me. I can't remember if he gets shot over and over and over in this movie, and he's. Oh yeah, I think because they keep saying his hands were cold. Do they say that in the first movie? I just watched all 3 of these. I can't remember which one's which, but I think. I don't know if they do the cold hands thing in this original movie or if it's a sequel, but I don't remember if he's undead in this movie or not. Like if he's supposed to be dead or alive or whatever. But regardless, this former fling of Matt Cordell's is the one who basically, secretly got his body from the prison, coroner, and basically, from what we were meant to understand, rehabilitated him, and she also works in the she's older and works in the whatever, the filing room or whatever at the police department. So she was the insider who helped Matt Cordell basically shame the police force, plus trying to frame Bruce Campbell's character for what basically he and she were doing. So, for being a relatively kind of independent, lower budget action / horror, and I'd call this more of it's not a horror movie, I'd call it like an action / horror movie, which is a kind of a cool blending of genres. And I might say, you might want to say that it maybe is one of the first movies to actually, take on that mantle or that title of action / horror, or horror / action. The scene at the end of the movie, kind of the St. Patty's Day parade, and Matt Cordell going in there to, stab the mayor and the police chief or whoever these people are, and try to get the blonde and all this kind of stuff. I mean, the scenes are really, really, really kind of cool, and the end chase scene with, he's got Bruce Campbell in the paddy wagon and takes him to the pier. He kind of lives at this, dilapidated pier in the, movie, and just all of this stuff, the story and stuff like that is really solid. And I think the action bits in this movie, and I just love the way it's like shot, the angles and stuff. You can tell this movie was made with love and passion, and just a really overall sense of, like, what I said, love and passion and, sweet care. So that's basically, the movie for the first Maniac Cop. I'm going to give this movie 3 stars out of 4 stars. Ever since day one when I first saw it and up till now, just recently revisiting this, I think it's an absolutely fantastic action slash, mystery slash horror movie. The more I think about it, the more it's kind of just an action movie slash mystery. It's really not necessarily, it's got horror element, like slasher movie elements, I guess, because he's got that, nightstick blade thing, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic, like late 80s, whatever, action kind of movie, and it really showcased, William Lustig's kind of, flair for visuals and just ideas in general. And it should be said that, this other filmmaker, Larry Cohen, is the guy who basically wrote the screenplay, from what I understand, of this movie, and William Lustig directed it. So it's a nice little pairing there, and it's a really nice, movie. So I guess we'll leave it at that. That's my review of Maniac Cop. Thank you very much for watching this review, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.